Hi, and welcome back. Hands-on modular sequencers are a lot of fun. If you have two of them, even very basic ones, you can cross-patch them to add a lot of depth to your sounds and melodies. Today we'll turn two simple sequences like this into more dynamic patches like this. And this. And this. And this. In this video, I will use my two favorite modular sequencers, the Chaos Devices Moskwa and the Qubit Bloom. To be fair, these are both pretty deep sequencers with a lot of options to create variations in depth. But in this video, I will only use the features that any basic 8-step sequencer has. For these patches to work, you need two sequencers with preferably 4 things. Of course, a CV output, a variable step length, so you can have an 8 and 7 or an 8 and 5 step sequence, for example, a gate output, and a clock output. As always, if you like to support my work or you want to get access to PDF sheets with hundreds of patch ideas I used in my videos, have a look at my Patreon. You can also support my channel through affiliate links in the video description. But now, let's dive right in. Let's start with the core idea and crosspatch modulation sequences between two voices. In this video, I used two simple oscillator filter VCA voices. Both oscillators have wave shaping possibilities, so some modulation depth can be added later. Mostly, the top voice is used as a higher lead and the lower as a bass line. Each of the voices has a sequencer sending a 1 volt per octave melody to the oscillator, and those sequencers trigger envelopes modulating the filter of that voice. The clock of one sequencer is driving the other, so they're both in sync. The sequence of the bass line is set to 8 steps and the lead to 7 steps. Here's how that sounds. Because of the difference in length, there is some movement in the sequences, but this will get old pretty fast. The core idea of cross-patching is to use any signal from the lead sequence to change or modulate something on the bass voice, and the other way around. For example, you can multiply the 1 volt per octave CV sequence and use it to modulate the filter of the other voice. In this setup, those signals are visualized in blue because they are used as modulation and no longer as 1 volt per octave signal. Here's an example where the CV sequence of the lead is modulating the envelope decay of the bass, and the CV of the bass is modulating the wave shape of the lead as well as the VCA. Depending on the range of your sequences, cross-patching might have more or less dramatic effect, so experiment with different modulation destinations in your voice. These sequences already have a lot more depth to it. Here's the same patch, but a copy of the lead CV is modulating the shape of the bass as well, and a copy of the bass CV is added to modulate the decay of the lead envelope. Also, instead of syncing one sequencer to the other directly, a clock divider is added to have the bass sequence run slower. Transposing or changing step length on the fly is great for performances. Beside cross-patching sequences, you can cross-patch clock and gate signals to create interesting rhythms and patterns. In this setup, the bass sequencer is synced through a divide by 3 clock division. And instead of each sequencer triggering their own envelope, the lead sequencer is triggering the envelope on the bass and the other way around. Because the bass sequence is divided by 3, the 7-step lead sequence feels a lot slower and longer. And you can play with the gates created by the 7-step lead sequencer to change the feel and pattern of the 8-step bass. I added a bit of delay in some of the next patches to accentuate the patterns. To create interesting tempo synced modulation that emphasizes these rhythm shifts, you can add more triggered modulation. For example, add envelopes to modulate the wave shape of the oscillators, each triggered by the other voice's sequencer. In this setup, simple attack decay envelopes are used, each of them with longer attack stages than the note length. Because the envelopes don't re-trigger, this results in interesting tempo synced movement. Here's the same setup, but with a slowed down sequence. And instead of using the clock out of the lead sequencer, a copy of the gate pattern is sent to a clock divider and on to forward the bass sequence. Because some gates are off, this creates interesting patterns. Of course, you can combine these ideas with CV modulation as well. Here, the lead CV is used to modulate the decay of the bass envelope again. Here's the same patch, but a lot faster. The divider is set to divide by 2, and a copy of the CV from the bass is added to modulate the filter frequency of the lead voice. Of course, you don't have to cross-patch everything. In this setup, the lower sequencer is generating a gate on each step, triggering the envelope of the lead voice. And the top sequencer is creating a more minimal gate pattern, triggering an envelope to open a filter on the bass voice. But to add to that filter modulation, you can use an envelope triggered by the lower sequencer as well. This way, the filter is modulated both by a short plucky envelope on each step, as well as an occasional slower modulation from a second envelope. You can add more complexity and introduce other modulation sources. Here's the same setup, again with a clock divider, this time to slow down the lead sequence. 2 LFOs are added as well, one modulating the shape of the envelope modulating the lead, and one modulating the envelope to the bass. In this patch, the speed of the whole patch is slowed down a lot, which is always fun to do when you already have something patched up. If you have sequencers with other in and outputs, you can experiment with those. A great example is the transpose input. In this setup, the base sequence is running at a division of 8. A great simple trick is to multiply the 1 volt per octave signal of that slow sequence and use it to modulate the transpose input of the faster sequence. The baseline oscillator has some slew added to it, and an LFO is modulating the wave shape a bit. If you want to go deeper into cross-patching transposing, you can take the gate output of the transpose sequencer and use that to forward another clock divider. In this setup, a fast and slow division are mixed and used to modulate the transpose input of the second sequencer. Remember that the gate input used for the second divider is an irregular pattern based on a 7-step sequence. So the divisions created are shifted from the divide by 8 sequence. And remember that the second sequence is transposing the first as well. These are still just a simple 8 and 7-step sequence, but they make a full-length self-playing patch. I limited the ideas in this video to just basic tools. But of course you can expand on this concept by using things like switches, crossfaders and panners. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more about that. In the meantime, you can have a look at my video on the BeatStep Pro here or browse through my videos in this playlist. As always, smash that like, subscribe and bell button if you want to see more modular content from me. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.